All right. Hello, everybody. Good morning, Marilena. Good morning, everyone that is tuning in. It is such an honor to be here. What a joy, what a privilege it is for me to be holding space here for you. And today we're going to continue our 30-day challenge in order to learn how to run energy and open the body for life force. So we did the solar plexus last time, and a lot of people were telling me that it was exactly what was needed. And today I'd like to focus on the sacral chakra. And the sacral chakra being one of the areas that is the womb of creation. And it is the center of one of the biggest issues with both men and women in the cultivation of the most important primordial life force of the body, which is the sexual energy, the creative energy. The connection between the sexual organs being one whole organ going from the throat all the way down to the sexual organs, and the two main houses of potent life force, which are the testicles and the ovaries, are energy centers that are cultivating feminine and masculine energy, depending left and right side of the body. And any imbalances that the body has with feminine and masculine will block the runway of this incredibly important part of your body. Now, the sacral and the root are deeply interconnected because for the male, it's in the root, because the male is the giver of life. It is the action, it's the manifestation in the physical. It is the movement of life force. And that movement of life force is rooted in the security of a solid foundation, a solid grounding. So that's why in our psychology as humans, for us to have the male figure as the foundation of the house, as the foundation of the home, which is talking about the spiritual structure of the home, not an actual, house. Although that's been misconstrued and inverted and manipulated, this concept of the divine masculine and the power that the masculine is holding, the importance of the cultivation of the divine masculine as a safe, potent, integrated, solid foundation. And this solid foundation of the divine masculine has to be managed by both the woman and the man. So we're not talking about sex here. We're talking about how to hold these two frequencies in the body, which are essential to the cultivation of balance, harmony, and health, and most importantly, the integration of the higher self and the physical, the matter and the non-matter. So these two things that have to integrate in the alchemical marriage, as I mentioned, every single chakra is going through an alchemical marriage as the dualities within them begin to integrate and become one. And as we integrate each chakra, moving up, healing, restoring, letting go, and releasing of the things that the energy, the information, the programs, the filters of perception that block the human from remembering themselves as infinite potential, as source. These are the blocks that hinder the human to wake up consciousness and to be able to embody this grounded, integrated higher self. So our job is to integrate the higher self into the physical in such a potent way that we begin to manifest, utilizing the life force through the physical vessel and channeling, directing it into the material, into this physical world, into the dream realm, in which we are dreaming, co-creating, and manifesting. So the sacral chakra for the feminine, for the woman, is essentially the womb of creation. And for the man, it is the relationship with the mother. It is the relationship with nurturing, with growth, with cultivation of all of the divine feminine traits, which is manifestation. It is intuition. Okay. So the intuition is developed on a strong foundation of self-love, security of the self, self-trust, root and sacral. Okay, these two in themselves are two energy centers that are deeply, deeply important as one of the foundational roots of a human in their spiritual journey. And the alchemical marriage in individually for those chakras, and then together, the root and the sacral, is actually the beginning of the healing of the lower dantian. From the integration of the root and the sacral comes easier integration of the solar plexus, because the solar plexus is the emotional body. It is the potent bioelectrical charge that is created by the conduction of the integration of the root and the sacral. So when these root and sacral are blocked, imbalanced, stagnant, non-moving, inverted, wounded, broken chakras, chakras, we are referring to the life force energy centers that create the filters of your perception. So when these two centers are fractalized and fragmented, there is a complete dispersing of your life force, confusion, disconnect, loss, inability to manifest, inability to create, inability to heal the body. All of those things are basic human tools that every single human has to tune into in order to live a healthy, vitality, abundant life. However, in our world, in the matrix universe, we kind of discharge of that power into the external. And that's why we are revering the calf. We are revering the material realm. We are revering money, material things. We are revealing the illusion of the superficial rather than the connection to the raw, integrated core authenticity that comes as it emerges from pure natural connection. And the human that begins to heal these root and sacral chakra immediately gravitates towards the connection to nature. The human that despises and disconnects their shadow elements and the imbalanced elements of the root and the sacral tries to get away from nature, is afraid of nature, because in nature is the unknown, in that nature is the subconscious mind. In nature is all of the hidden fears, anxieties, and all the separate fractalized parts of ourselves that are in the subconscious mind. It's everything that we don't see and everything that we don't want to see. So the emotional body in the solar plexus is when we learn how to manage the emotions, now we can see and feel safe, even if we see things that are difficult, fearful, things that we don't want to know about, things that we fear. It's extremely important. So the cultivation of the nervous system, okay, so the parasympathetic nervous system that is picking up information from the surroundings, emotional data, energetic information from people around us, the entire multidimensional body is picking up. And so this picking up of information is processed through this morphogenetic field. It's processed through the energetic bodies. The first 7 bodies are responsible for processing all of that information. The processing of that information is then organized within the levels of the chakra, which are processing this information by frequency. And how you hold each one of those frequencies in your body depends on how much debris you have in each one of the chakra bodies. When we talk about chakras, we're not talking about flat discs, small flat discs up your spine. We're talking about spheres, bodies, fields of information. And those fields of information, when they are stagnant or impacted by trauma and fragmentation as a result of trauma, disassociation, complete disconnect from the body and those parts of us, this creates a split in the self of the human. And that split is very difficult to heal if we're not able to integrate the shadow. So in this video, we're going to talk about healing the sacral, because the sacral chakra, and we're going to work incrementally. The next, we're going to talk about the root. But the sacral is referring to the womb of creation. Okay, it is creative life force. It is sexual energy. It is the currency of exchange. Every time that we are exchanging within ourselves, internally, our thoughts or emotions, and that exchange, those neural pathways that are deeply interconnected to the nervous system. And every time that we are engaging in exchange with another in any way is always coming through and filtered through our perceptions. So for those of us that have traumas around your authentic expression, those of you that have traumas around your authenticity, we have a wounded sacral chakra. Because anytime we cannot come into our pure authenticity, we are in a state of control and contraction, in the illusion that we can control other people's perception of us, and that we can control the way that we appear to other people. We can control. And that illusion, that is the control that is externalized, that we want to control the external factors, is a major depletion of your life force. It's one of the most energetically traumatizing and harming to the energetic body, because the body creates a split energetically and the life force is being depleted from the body. So it's really, really important that the body and the mind begin to come coherent into understanding where your energy needs to go, where your life force needs to be focused and directed. Okay, so when we're talking about the sacral chakra, we're talking about this energy, this life force of manifestation and creation. If you don't know yourself, and if you don't understand how to create healthy exchange, boundaries, healthy giving, and healthy receiving, that's your feminine and your masculine. So if those are blocked in you, if you cannot receive or you cannot give, that indicates the parts of your feminine and masculine parts of you that are stagnant and blocked. It's also going to indicate the parts of your body that are stagnant and blocked, especially down your spine. Okay. And so you'll notice that a lot of people that have these blockages in their body have very specific blockages organically. For example, in their ability to have sex and intimacy, and their ability to even become to be seen, to be intimate in any way, emotionally, mentally, psychologically. So these blockages actually create a very deep void in the body that is starving for that connection, starving for love. And one of the greatest pursuits that humanity is after is the feeling of love, of connection, of affection. So the human, in this centripetal spin of energy depletion, is constantly cultivating these parasitic habits in order to receive, receive, receive. And that void is never filled because the human is not aware of what is missing. And it just becomes a perpetual cycle. And this is the root of addictions. Okay, so anytime that we are depleted from our source vital life force, we turn to addictions of food, sugar, alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever it is, even gambling, whatever it is that creates biochemical charges in the body that will redirect that empty void into this aimless action and use of life force that is depletion for the body. So this has to be regrouped. It has to be, the awareness has to be there to understand what's being depleted, why, and how do we regroup ourselves from that depletion. So the sacral body is basically the part of your body that's in charge of exchanges. You'll notice that when a human has tremendous amount of trauma, especially sexual trauma, their ability to expand their life force is completely contracted. In fact, most of the time, people want to hide, covert, completely cover all of the parts of themselves that are fragile, which is deep pains and sorrows and emotions, hiding those emotions, not only from themselves, but from others, with the inability to recognize the pain and the sorrow and acknowledge those deep pains that they're feeling. And usually that happens in toxic families and environment where talking about this is completely unacceptable. Talking about traumas, talking about pain, This is usually in households where the focus is tough love and completely redirected from a compassionate, gentle, authentic interconnectivity in where communication is very safe. As I mentioned, the sexual organ is one organ. It is the sexual organs and the throat, which is linked to communication. So, as a direct result of the stagnation and trauma around our exchanging life force center, we cannot exchange communication. We're very confused about our truth. We're confused about what to communicate. We're confused when to communicate, how to communicate. All of that is a complete disconnect of the self and a complete disconnect of the body. So, from this trauma in the sacral comes the stagnation of the emotional body in the solar plexus. The solar plexus is the emotions, and those emotional bodies completely stagnant. There is no wanting to be connected to the body. Because the sacral chakra manages exchanges, it's also responsible for understanding the perception of unity and separation. So the concept of separation is rooted in the root chakra, but the manifestation of that separation is carried out by the sacral chakra. So we have a perpetual loneliness, disconnect, complete feeling that we are not able to integrate parts of us that are completely dispersed. And so sexual trauma, because it is the core of the healing of the integration of oneness, this is why all of these parasitic groups utilize sexual trauma as one of the most powerful ways to fragment the soul. Okay, so in these darker groups of parasitic consciousness that is meant to feed on the life force of the soul and that creative life force, the targeted life force is the primordial energy of co-creation, which is your sexual energy. And when the human is abused or that boundary of innocence is trespassed, there's a major disassociation with the physical body, which affects the emotional solar plexus, and a severing of the voice, inability to speak. So the healing of these parts creates massive transformation for the human. Not only is the human able to come into the body fully, but to communicate and acknowledge the emotions that they're feeling and how they are able to present themselves in exchanges with one another. It is extremely important for the human to begin to recognize how they are holding their energy in the sacral chakra. It is very clear in humans that are seeking outside of themselves in any sort of addiction, in where they become a very strong expression for these imbalanced energies. Okay, so let's talk about that, and let's look at the body. How does the multidimensional body look like when we are depleting that life force in the body, especially from these energies? Okay, so we are looking at three different energy bodies here. The first body is an out-of-body sacral. Okay, hold on. First body, there you go. Okay, so let me open this slide. I want you guys to see this. Okay, all right. So this first image here is showing the sacral body out of balance. And so, as I mentioned many times before, the chakras are spheres of information. So what happens when these spheres of information are overactive and enlarged is that the human body is a magnet energetically for that frequency. We are attracting absolutely all of that. Okay. So what happens with the breakage of the multidimensional body when it has sexual trauma, for example, or there's a breach within the boundaries of this body, is that essentially it becomes fragmented. The fractalization of your primordial life force is the fractalization of your connection to the higher self. So this is why it's one of the traumas that is the most difficult to heal, because we're literally talking about your ability to create. When your primordial sexual energy, your pure primordial creative life force becomes fractalized, the human cannot create. It's severed. It also cannot communicate. Okay, so let's take a look here at how we are dealing with the body when we begin to heal the sacral body. Now, why I tell you and teach you to shrink your chakra, your first three chakras, is because when you shrink this overactive center of information, this filter of information, you can see truth. If these centers of information are completely enlarged and completely overactive and out of balance, it's very difficult for you to see truth because your perception is completely tainted by this. And all you see is what you have running here in this overactive, out of balance filter, this part of your body. Okay, so for example, this human has sexual trauma. All they can see is abuse. All they can see is sex, really, in everything. All they can see is their inability to feel intimate or that connection to intimacy, and the profound fear of connection. So everything turns into the fear of that connection for the human. So, what does the human have to do in order to be able to heal this? When they shrink the chakra, the potency of the imbalanced and traumatized life force that is very vibrant living. Remember that when your field is expanded, it's communicating with your environment. That's why when we expand the heart, the throat, and the third eye, we begin to see things a little differently. We begin to see things as truth. We begin to see things more calmly, more from a zero point. But if your vision is completely filtered by the, let's say, the root in deep fear, all you can see is from that very myopic vision. So the shrinking of the chakra allows you to quiet that static. It's kind of like a really large band playing very loudly in your space, and all you did was turn the volume down. It doesn't eliminate the band, but it turns it down. And sometimes, now that you have that loud noise out of your way, you can see them more clearly, because before it's like information overload. Sounds, all of the senses are completely overrun, triggered in every way. So the triggering of the body is the attack on the parasympathetic and the nervous system. Remember that. If we are in a constant fight or flight mode, survival mode, it's very difficult for you to begin healing process. It's very difficult for you to calm yourself, to even sit down and meditate. So we have to help this beautiful, intelligent organism and train the body to come into a state in which it can sustain longer periods of observation, which have to be trained in the body, because most of us are deeply addicted to constant stimulation, constant immediate satisfaction of our temporal needs, immediate satisfaction of our unconscious desires, which are all coming from the subconscious suffering and pain that we have not integrated within the first three fields of the body. And they are fed and magnified by the stagnation in the upper levels of the body, right? Because if you cannot open your third eye and you're not connected to any level of intuitive awareness, you won't be able to understand that there's something more outside of the repetitive patterns of pain and suffering that you're experiencing currently in your life. So the new human that we are looking to cultivate as an alchemist is essentially the human that alchemizes the body, the way that it holds and sustains frequency, and the way that it perceives reality by alchemizing the lower emotions into a higher frequency emotion. And that is a very, very powerful gift that the human begins to cultivate and access through their awareness. So the moving of these chakra bodies, once you shrink them down, now you can begin to, from the observer state, look at all the debris that you've had in your body. The shrinking of your chakras do not eliminate the debris in your chakras. It does not. It minimizes the triggers that are being carried through an imbalanced survival mode, so that when you lessen the triggers, you can see them more clearly. And the reason why we open the heart and the throat in the third eye, because you're activating the alchemical tools in your body. How do things become alchemized? Through the heart. Only through the heart. What does that mean? Love. It's the unifying force of compassion that alchemizes all the lower programs, the traumas, the beliefs. And you begin to look at yourself instead of existing, because this person right here exists in the past. If you look at their body, they have all kinds of cords connecting to their body, connecting to the past, to people, partners, family, friends. You know, this person is just overloaded with information, and on top of it, distracted by the external experience, maybe on their phone, on social media, getting those little chemical hits, right, to feed the addiction of trying to avoid the survival mechanisms, which they are actually enlarging in their body, which they are feeding, they are running, they are cultivating even more so. Remember that your thoughts cultivate your frequency. So if your thoughts are in the past, if the majority of your thoughts are in the past based on fear, sadness, things that happened in the past, if your thoughts are in the future, fears, anxieties, potential imaginary situations that you are constantly thinking about, you don't live in the present moment. You have no access to free will. The only thing that you are running through is the suffering that you've inherited, the programs and the suffering that have been inherited by generations and generations of ancestral traumas, limiting beliefs, and behavioral programs that are depleting of human life force. So the purpose of running life force through the body is in order to clear out the energy, which is why pranic healing is so wonderful for people that are ill, because you are moving debris and dirty energy, which it simply means chaotic energy, not harmonious energy from the body. Chaotic energy that has no purpose, no direction, no self-awareness creates stagnation in the energy runways of the body. All the meridian runways of the body become overrun with chemicals that are stagnant, which are inflammatory and conducive of illness. Okay, illness in the mind, illness in the body, illness in the heart. And when your heart is ill, you cannot love. And that is a major problem. This is where we start having heart attacks, you know, really severe immune systems. And usually heart attack is, and heart complications are a result of that whole entire center of connection to your source is just caving in. Okay. So to change that, because this person is living in a lie, in a way, they're living in an illusions that they are reliving and reinforcing of the past. This person is not living in the present moment. Even if they are living in a house with traumatic partners, difficult family members, trauma, abuse, when they connect with their body and when they begin to reinforce the pure life force of creativity in their body through themselves, with themselves only, there's nothing external that will support this. The internal reconnection of the self, the human will wake up consciousness and begin to love themselves by doing loving actions that cultivate health, vitality, freedom. Free is love. Love equals freedom. The ability to love the self unconditionally means the ability to provide the self with grace to experience all potential experiences, but not become identified with any one of them. So this, as a practical, energetic manifestation, looks completely different. This individual does not live in the present moment. This individual is completely attached and connected to identities of themselves, survival mechanisms through their personalities, false masks that are being worn, okay? Denial of this constant need to fulfill the empty void that has been cultivated since childhood. Okay, so the void of the mother, the void of the father, the inability to connect to those parts of us that are most sacred, most divine, the understanding of this marriage of these dualistic life forces that run through us. So the alchemization process is like this, and it's very simple and it's very instantaneous when you understand what you're doing. Okay. The root chakra, when you start shrinking the root chakra, the soul, the sacral, and the solar, you begin to see all the little debris that have been in your space, okay? And you begin to notice how much and what you have going on in the body. Every single one of those colors represents one of the chakras, and you know how much of that information you're holding in the body. So as you begin to clean this, what happens is that the person becomes more clear. Now they can breathe deeper. Now they can inhale down to the base of the spine. Now they're not in panic mode. And the process of healing the body from a state of constant survival is going to be a tough one because it's a biochemical addiction. We are addicted to being in a state of survival. Biochemically, bioelectrically, the entire body is charged with this survival life force. The addiction to being in survival requires that there is constant movement or triggering energy within you. So not only do we avoid, we think we're avoiding the triggers, but we go find more triggers. We watch triggering TikToks, we watch, triggering Instagram posts. Let's say we get engaged in the politics or the things that are happening in the world outside of us, and we get so charged up and we think that we're doing something in this world, but the only thing that is happening is that our life force is constantly depleted. The human has no ability to regather that life force. And it's in the silence and in the stillness that the human can begin to take back the power, the sovereignty of control over the body. When you are angry, you are at the mercy. You are the slave of the person that has made you angry. Because that amount of power, the identification and the loss of control of yourself and the other in that moment, the illusion of control is actually a very profound, deep betrayal of ourselves against ourselves. And there you go. It's a series and series of belief systems and pains towards the self. So all of these debris that are in the body, now you're going to be able to see them. And here's another thing that's going to happen. Now that you shrunk the root, the sacral, the solar, what happens is that the body comes into a more regulated state. Okay. Breath is extremely important because Oxygen in the body and the process, the biological response of breathing in the body massages the neuropathic runways of energy in the body. Okay, the parasympathetic nervous system is like massaged by the oxygen that you breathe into the body. The pressure points along the spine that help open the pathways of life force in the body begin to loosen up, to become open. So oxygen is extremely important as a carrier of life force into the body. And so that's why anytime that we're in panic mode, let's say we reach a crisis of identity and we start having a panic attack, they teach you to do box breathing, right? Where you begin to breathe, and that breath alone will remove you from that panic attack. Panic attacks can be very serious. People can take themselves into severe states. It's ourselves to ourselves, and it's a very serious thing. All the blood vessels constrict. People can take themselves into heart attacks, cardiac arrest, all kinds of things in the physical body. So the mind is extremely powerful. In the same way that we can heal the mind, you can also, break the mind down. You can damage yourself by believing things that are depletion of your life force. So the clearing of these debris, these thought forms inside of the field, are going to allow you to clarify your observation, your awareness. And as you remove these blockages from the field, little by little, how do you remove them? First of all, it is the acknowledgement. So first of all, you observe them, then you become aware of it. As you observe, that awareness gives you insight and understanding. And because you closed your first, second, and third chakra, your observations are not tainted by survival mechanisms. And your filters, because they are shrunken down from the imbalanced filters, and you have opened up the more harmonious filters like your heart, your throat, and your third eye, you are able to experience love. You see truth and intuition, vision. This is the healthy way of seeing your debris in your body. But if you look at your debris from right here, you're not going to see very much. You're not going to understand. There's no way your body can output information and then get information in the process of outputting. You see, this intelligent, energetic body, if you're in a state of exiting the body, how are you going to bring into the body information that is required for you? It's sensation overload. And because those biochemical addictions are so strong, it's hard for you to differentiate the difference. And, that's something that we have to cultivate. So as you remove the debris, what happens is that the body has a pause for healing. Okay, there's a pause here for the body to begin to heal. And essentially the expansion of the third eye, the throat, and the heart chakra allow you to begin to shift your perception from survival mode into the 0 point of neutral observation. Neutral observation is from where love, real compassion, which is from where love emerges, the real love, not romantic love, the unifying life force that allows us to see ourselves as all things around us, as things as an extension of ourselves. This begins to change in the way that we relate to ourselves, to our pain, to our suffering. And this is the alchemical embodiment. So the sacral chakra, giving these programs of pain and suffering, especially in the sexual body, because what happens when we experience sexual trauma is that, we have rips in the energetic body. And there's severe disconnect, usually within the energetic fields of the body, from the heart center to the lower dantian. This has to be reconnected by the healing and the integration of the root, which is essentially the house of your stability, security, your ability to feel safe. Okay, so the root chakra, we're going to heal that one next, is your ability to ground yourself in your body. Is it okay for you to exist? And there are many traumas that we're going to talk about, but belief systems of not being wanted as a child, or maybe even in the womb, traumas of abortion, traumas of neglect, rejection, fear of bringing you into this lifetime, all of those are absorbed and programmed into you epigenetically, into the subconscious emotional database that you keep reverting to as core belief systems of your ability to create and to take up space in this world. And that is something that has to be healed. It has to be addressed. What you're going to realize is that that belief system is not even yours. It is usually the mother's or the father's. And we took it on because as a child, you know, because we are a fractal of source and just coming from that source, our understanding is unified. It's we see ourselves as one as a child. We don't see ourselves as separate. We don't see ourselves as the identity and the other. That's something that is cultivated and developed in the child from the womb until the age of 7, where the human begins to create personalities in order to navigate the physical realm. So that level of individuation that happens to the human is something that the human becomes identified, but unfortunately in our matrix world, we become identified with, you know, the external survival filter of reality. And what we want to try to do for the inner child is teach the inner child that that very pure creative part of itself, the innocence of the ability to see the world with awe, with this curiosity, and not coming from a place of control or fear, is actually something incredibly freeing for the human as a creative being. And that's what we're healing in the sacral chakra. The innocence. The number one block in the sacral chakra is shame and guilt. And shame and guilt, if we look at the history of shame and guilt in humans history, we begin to understand that during the times of the development of more parasitic programs for the purpose of control, these concepts were inserted into society, into the social engineering of humanity in order to provide, you know, organized systems of society. However, it is also a natural reflection of what it means to experience duality. Because remember that this human experience in the three-dimensional plane is all about creation. So how do you challenge a creator in order to alchemize them into the awareness of their creativity, in order to alchemize this soul's experience through the physical realm? Is by allowing them to experience separation in all of its different facets and in the plethora of human experiences that are available to them, in order to like the coal to become that diamond. It's the alchemical transmutation of this experiencer into becoming a soul again. So the concept of shame and guilt is the fractalization of its most divine self with its shadow self. And the process of healing and reintegrating that shame and guilt is the ability to witness, first of all, your emotional responses to all of your shadows, the ability to witness all of the shame, and then going into very deep emotions like disgust, you know, this feelings of rejection, feelings of horror, terror, of your most deepest desires, the deepest shadows of the human. And every single human has them. There isn't a single human on this planet that doesn't have a dark aspect to themselves, because it is necessary. And the higher you go in the elevation of consciousness, the lower your awareness will also reach. And the more expansive your awareness will be. So what happens when you start waking up and start opening up these parts of you is one of the most healing alchemizing techniques for this is to begin to observe the reflection of these deep shadows in the external world. And actually, it's not just observing, that will naturally reveal itself to you as you begin to look at your own shadows. And one of the strongest examples, but one of the examples that is the most alchemizing for humans, for example, it is the sexual abuser and the victim. And there is very deep psychological, filters that are created by both of these roles, but the resonance between them is pretty unbelievable. The resonance in the shame and the guilt around the desires, around the wanting to be loved, around the wanting to feel, around the wanting to be intimate, to wanting to be seen, is actually what brings the abuser and the victim together. It's what links and opens the possibility for this kind of experience. And the trauma is on both ends. Okay, and we're not talking about, complex, psychological situations and like psychiatric flaws in a human right now. We're not talking about that. That is basically a severe example that this little split, it turns into those severe psychiatric conditions of, psychopathy and things like this. Those are more evolved and severe examples of these little splits that we're talking about. But and we all have those little parts in us. We have to be aware of how we can touch them or develop those. But the important thing is that the human begins to understand the root of those little splits within you, so that you can begin to notice, what does it take to integrate that part? So the healing of the sacral chakra is about shame and guilt, in that most shame around your desires, number one. And if you come from very religious backgrounds, concepts of taboo, concepts of shame and guilt around feeling pleasure, and that's a really huge trauma, because in our society, as a result of a lot of the influence of religion, the concept of feeling pleasure is actually something that is taboo. It's not okay. It's not okay to reach the orgasmic state. In fact, so many different ancient cultures through history have worked so hard to sever that connection to the orgasmic state in the body, including some of the African tribes that used to mutilate, for example, the women, in order for them not to feel that the bliss state. Now, the bliss, the orgasm, for example, it's an example of the unification, the pure unification that the human feels when it becomes one with the universe in a spiritual, psychological, emotional level. The emotional level is a side effect, but it's the reunification of source. And this is why sex has been inverted through many generations and turned into something taboo, because it is through the use and the alchemization of your primordial life force that the human has the ability of understanding the access of the bliss state, the alchemical union that is available to the human, the bliss that is available to the body, in where the body dissolves and we become all. So the pursuit of humanity in the suppression of the orgasm, the suppression of bliss, the suppression of pleasure as something that is divine, that is innocent, that is pure, that is a product of pure creation, has been completely made dirty. And that is in our collective subconscious as a human race. So from the start, the human has no awareness of that divinity. And it isn't until the human dives really deep into becoming a monk, for example, where they learn to control, well, hopefully that's the intention originally, but that's been quite inverted. They actually suppress their sexual energy, and it comes out in all wrong ways, actually, right? So the correct way of that, and the pathway of the alchemical human, the human that begins to alchemize their sexual energy into pure creative life force, is the ability to feel love in such a way that it becomes the unification of the physical and the non-physical. And that feels like an orgasm in the body, in the mind, in the soul of this multidimensional organism of co-creation. So all of these arts of integration, of healing, of the ability to unlock the heart in order to feel unconditional love have been suppressed for a long time, because it is the best way to control man. If you can sustain a man in a state of ignorance and a state of shame, they will become their own personal abusers. They will sever themselves from the bliss state. They will block themselves from feeling that divinity, that connection to the source, going outside of the lines, outside of the conventional concepts of spiritual evolution. So right now we're going through a major reawakening where we're going to learn more about the divinity of your sexual energy. It's not going to be something that is taboo anymore. It's going to be something different. We will understand as a human race, maturing into an understanding of what it means to be a creator in this plane. And the integration of the sacral chakra as we heal the traumas of shame and guilt is healing the split that is within all humans as a collective human race into unity consciousness. So once we begin to see ourselves as divine beings of co-creation, it unlocks your ability to feel the entire spectrum of your emotions. Because what happens is that the solar plexus becomes completely blocked because of shame and guilt, and this split between the physical, the non-physical, the divine, and the shadow. But once you begin to integrate the shame and the guilt, you will unlock the ability to feel everything, physically, emotionally, mentally. And this is the key to unlocking your intuitive abilities, because it's through the senses that you begin to cultivate as the tools of interdimensional awareness. It's through the senses that we begin to activate our clairs, clairaudient, clairsentient, claircognizant. All of these tools now become available to the man when it heals these centers and the splits that we cultivate within them. So this is the amazing integration process that the human has, and the sacral is one of the most important, because what happens is once you integrate the split at the root of this sacral chakra, you begin to reunify the parts of yourself, the shadow elements of yourself, and now you can begin to accept all parts of yourself. And acceptance is the gateway to compassion, not only for yourself, but for your ability to relate to the external world. Now you begin to expand the heart. So the next step is the expansion of the heart. And the heart chakra expansion allows you to experience coherence. Coherence. If any of you have had those Kundalini awakenings that people talk about, which we are going to experience in every chakra, not just the root, not just the sacral. Kundalini awakenings means the movement of life force up the spine. We're going to activate the openings of each of those chakras up into the crown until you activate your creation, becoming a manifester, until you marry the physical with the non-physical and you integrate that Merkabaic body of co-creation. And so the Merkaba begins to come online in this physical body by opening these blocked centers. So our filters of perception are extremely important to how we're holding energy. And essentially, the opening of these runways of energy allow the human to see themselves as this divine being that's not stuck in the perception of just the physical, but so much more. You are more non-physical than you are physical, but your blocks in the root sacral solar keep you thinking that you are so small and that you have to be small and that you're stuck in the physical realm in states of unconscious and disconnect. Okay, so let's get into it. We're gonna go into our meditation now. I'm gonna stop the share. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for all your amazing chats and comments. It's so great to see all of you, you guys. And thank you so much for the amazing super chats, guys. I really appreciate that, and it really helps me keep going. So just want to give you a shout out for that. I get so many super chats, not just in the live, but during the week, and that really means a lot to me. There was a question about what is a super chat. I will try to explain it. The super chat is, if you look on the chat, well, let me see if I can show you, because I actually had 3 people ask last time, what is a super chat? And I'll just show you since I'm here. Super chat is when you press this guy, this little money sign, and you can donate. You can donate monetary gifts, or just show your support. And it's just a fun way to participate if you wish to do so. Very good. So I'm going to wait for your questions to populate the chat, but if you guys have questions, go ahead and put it in there in capital letters so I can catch them, because there's so many amazing comments, but I want to make sure that I address your questions. So put them in capital letters, and I can't wait to answer them. Let's get into the meditation, guys. Go ahead and ground yourself down to the center of the earth. With every breath you take, allowing yourself to come into a state of complete relaxation, complete calm. Breathing. We're going to begin to visualize the center of the earth and go ahead and create a cord connecting your body down to the center of the earth. Go ahead and ground yourself. Begin to focus on your field around your body, healing any holes, rips, tears in the field. Do not be afraid to move your energy in your field in order to create a solid sphere around you. Trust yourself and remember that your intention creates. But if you don't believe in your intention, then you're lost and you basically don't realize the effect of your co-creation, which is a problem because sometimes we can cause a lot of harm with these unconscious behaviors, unconscious intentions that are just being shot left and right without clarity. So allow yourself to be clear about your intention here. Come fully present into the moment, connect with your body, understand what you're doing here, and do it with clear intention. Focus on the root chakra. Go ahead and shrink the root chakra down to the size of a dime. Go up into the sacral. Go ahead and shrink that sacral chakra down to the size of a dime. The solar. Expanding the heart. The third eye. The throat. Allow yourself to come into an observer state, coming into absolute stillness. From the center of the earth, go ahead and bring a powerful wave of green life force that comes rushing up into the base of the feet, into the shins, the calves, the knees, the thighs, into the solar plexus, creating a vortex of energy. From source, go ahead and bring down a powerful wave of gold cosmic energy into the crown of your head, down your spine, combining with the green earth energy. We're going to take 10% back down to the center of the earth, clearing your body, anchoring source into the earth. Take 80% of that up your spine from the crown of your head, coating the outside of your body, calling back your life force. Go ahead and cut cords with people, places, things that you've been interacting with today, and allow that cord, those two ends of the cords, to reconnect back to source as you visualize your own life force returning back to you, and you release anything that you took on that doesn't belong to you. People that you saw, that you interacted with, that you spoke with, every single person you come into contact with, clear your space. Go ahead and allow yourself to focus on taking that final 10% of green and gold energy, bringing it back into the body. Green and gold infused into the pores, the flesh, the muscles, the bone, down to the cellular level of your body. Let's go up into the crown as you begin to activate the crown chakra, expanding your crown sphere. Go ahead and set your intention that you are in alignment with your highest expression. You're going to set that intention in the area of your career, family, friends, love, relationships, harmony, peace, health, vitality, and your purpose. Go up into your eighth. Go ahead and activate your awareness, your intention with source. As you remember and recognize yourself as a fractal of source, and the intention that you have of existing in this physical plane. Allow yourself to be aware of that for a moment. aligning yourself with your highest intention, the one that you might not even remember yet as an incarnate. Allow yourself to recover that memory as you begin to remember what you're here for. The most highest octave of that awareness. Go ahead and focus on the sacral chakra now as you begin to observe your multidimensional body. I want you to look at all the debris in your sacral chakra. Go ahead and take a look at that. You're going to see objects, pictures. You're going to see things that look like parasites, little bugs, whatever it is. The form is symbolic and it might have some meaning to you, but I want you to trust whatever you feel and sense in your field as you tune in to your sacral chakra. And we're going to begin to clear this out. You're going to visualize a vacuum connecting to the bottom of your sphere. You're going to send all that debris down into that vacuum, into that center core of the planet. You can also attach a vacuum to the top of your sphere. And this one, everything is transmuted back to source, which means it's all transmuted through love, through compassion. So your connection at the top of your sphere is connecting back to source. It's a direct alchemy. Just allow yourself to clear all the debris in your field, gently eliminating all the blockages. The debris, the pictures, the images, the thoughts. These are all thought forms that have manifested into some form, some symbolic form usually. Dissolve them. Try to notice all of the agreements that you've made in order to experience these karmic experiences in the sacral chakra. Go ahead and see those agreements. They can look like contracts, books, scrolls, papers, whatever feels real to you, tablets. Just go ahead and dissolve them completely. Go ahead and break the pile of karma sticks. These are sticks that represent your cords, your connections, your ties to these agreements. You're just going to imagine breaking them in half. So we're going to go deeper now. As you connect to your sacral chakra, I want you to tune into your chakra and notice the emotion that is there. What is the emotion that you most feel in your sacral chakra? Tune in. Observe the memory, observe the insights, observe the awareness that comes up as you absolutely sit 100% present with this emotion. Allow yourself to get to the root emotion that is at the base of this first emotion that you tuned into, in the sacral. You're going to access the root by observing the emotion and allowing whatever needs to come up to come up. The layers of emotions underneath that first emotion. Those are programs, belief systems. See if you can try to get to the root. What's at the core? Where did it all begin? As you observe some of these things, allow yourself to feel grace for yourself. You are not judging anything that you observe and feel in this moment. This is just an exploration. It is an experiment of observing the body, the emotions, the mind. As you keep coming back to an observer state, you begin to see things a little more clear, a little more from above. You might notice that some belief systems that were previously there changed as you begin to observe. I want you to access the most wounded part of you that is at the core root of these emotions. You're going to see that part of you in front of you. Take a look at it almost as if it's a cartoon character or some kind of archetypal manifestation, some symbolic part of you. Go ahead and see that. What does it look like to you? Something that symbolizes that core emotion that you feel at the root. What is it that you need in order to alchemize this emotion from yourself, towards yourself? To begin to identify everything that this little part of you requires. Begin to infuse that part of you with what it needs. Go ahead and see all the fractals of yourself from the womb until now that need what you're providing, and fill them with this as well. As you begin to observe all these parts of you changing, transforming, go ahead and merge them into one self in front of you. If there's anything else that's missing from this part, go ahead and infuse it with exactly what it needs. Allow that part of you to become familiarized with a new way of feeling, knowing, seeing, existing. Very good. As you begin to see all these parts of you integrating, becoming one, go ahead and see what's different with this part of you. What has changed now? What have we learned from this observation practice? What are some of the insights that you've collected as you observed these parts of you? Go ahead and inhale, deeply taking this part of you inside of you as you integrate as one. Go into the sacral chakra. Go ahead and visualize a brilliant white light coming into the sacral chakra, spinning it as fast as possible, eliminating all the debris, all the heaviness that's there from this lifetime and other lifetimes. All the pain, the suffering that you've accumulated, the contraction of your energy, of your life force, of your emotions. Clear that out. I want you to see a pile full of contracts that represent all of the karmic lessons through the sacral chakra. And you're going to just dissolve them. Go ahead and take those karma sticks, which represent the cords to people, places, and things, and all of these ideas of the past. Go ahead and break them in half. Call back your life force into your body. Release what no longer serves you. As you integrate this part of you, you will feel more complete, more whole. Go ahead and open the root chakra back into a balanced state. The sacral, the solar, the heart, the throat, the third eye. Notice that you'll be able to open those wider and more clear, more visual. You'll notice that your intuition is super active, and also your ability to communicate and express has opened up. Go ahead and allow yourself to ground down to the center of the earth and bring yourself back into the room, and welcome back. You guys did amazing. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It was a true gift to share this practice with you, and I hope that it helps you guys. I'm going to jump into the chat really quickly to see if there's any quick questions here that I can answer. Alchemist says, is the throat blockage always related to the sacral? It's one system. So if you have sacral problems, for sure, there's throat chakra problems. Is there's throat chakra problems? For sure, there's sacral problems. So it's one organism. So the answer would be yes. But it doesn't mean that the throat blockages are not connected to other parts of your body as well. Okay, so basically tune into the blockage in the throat and feel into the blockage. What is the emotion that comes up, and what is the nature of those emotions, and observe there what becomes triggered. Angie, thank you so much. Illy, when we shrink the chakras during running energy, do we have to increase them again at the end? Yes, always, always. And always make sure that we do that in this session. Always disclose that we do. The shrinking of the chakras is only for meditation, because what happens is that your body, your light body, expands, it grows. And if you don't know how to cultivate energetic hygiene and know how to hold your space, your protection, your field, you can deplete a lot of your energy, and you're not going to cultivate your intuition. So you might be wide open, you might be seeing a lot of dead people, like your vision will be open, but it's going to be open from an imbalanced place because your field is not clean. So that's why this is an incremental work. Your body, when you tune into your intuition, your chakra automatically goes into reading state. We just turn it into a reading state for meditation to help train your body so that you can be in control of this physical multidimensional system, and that you can use your free will. Because if you are dormant and you're not aware how your body functions, the external will be in control of yourself rather than you be in control of your body. So there's some things there that you need to be aware of. Hair loss from childhood, is it sacral root chakra issues? Due to feeling unsafe my whole life, no medical conditions beside thyroid issue as a teenager, which now is in remission over 10 years. Well, that's wonderful, Illy, but the thyroid issues that we had are completely connected to the hair loss. And thyroid issues, even though, thank God, it's in remission, energetically, we might still be playing out those imbalanced programs. And so what I want you to notice is, how do you hold feminine, masculine energy in your life? How do you express these two dualistic energies in your interactions with people, with yourself? this is the question that I want you to ask. And what is your relationship to the masculine? What is your relationship to the feminine? What's your relationship to the wounded feminine, wounded masculine, shadow feminine, shadow masculine? Take a look at how you're holding those. And if you notice that there's imbalances and you're holding really a lot of heavy in one and the other, it's a clear indication the thyroid, because the thyroid is directly connected to our truth and our relationship with truth. And the truth is a dualistic nature. It has a feminine and masculine energy. So we have to learn how to integrate into becoming one. That way we can operate from higher truth, which is the healing of the throat. Okay. Alchemist, thank you so much for that super chat. Super sweet. Love you. Thank you so much for being here, guys. All my love, and I can't wait to see you soon. Bye-bye.